Back again on this special edition of Ask the AD, Brian Smoller with Director of Athletics Gene Taylor. And we're glad that you could join us as we continue our series here, this three-part series looking at the House settlement, what it is, first of all, which was video number one, and now why, the why of why K-State brings value and success to athletics and to this region. And then the last one will be how we all can move forward into the future. So let's get into this. We spent last time talking at length about the settlement, what it is, and kind of going through all the different aspects of that, rosters and scholarship numbers and all those sorts of things. So now let's talk about value of K-State athletics. And obviously we know that as fans of the department, we're excited about it. But if you could put numbers to it.
Yeah, fortunately for us, we've done economic impact studies in the past over the years. We did one, the university did one recently for athletics. Actually, they did one for the university, and then they did a separate one within that just for athletics. And it's a pretty significant impact, both from the state level, the dollars we bring into the state, and local levels, that we do bring value. We are very valuable to this institution. We're valuable to the state in a lot of ways. And I think the numbers are, when you get a chance to see them, they'll kind of explain that story.
All right, so let's take a look at, we're going to look at a couple of different slides here, and we'll talk through them and kind of what these numbers mean. All right, so the first slide, as we show it here, shows almost $500 million of total economic impact of K-State athletics. So what does that all entail?
Well, it's just dollars that come into the communities and the state in terms of hotels and restaurants and tax dollars and jobs. I think there's part of the economic impact that talks about the number of jobs that we create, both from the security, the people that work the games, and it's not just a football thing. It's a football, basketball, baseball. All those numbers add up to be some pretty significant impact financially and economically to our region.
That number also includes almost $8 million in charitable giving and time donated by the faculty, staff, and students of K-State athletics. All right, so you mentioned jobs, so let's look at that as we look at the number 2 slide on here. Second slide is the amount of jobs created. This is almost 4,000 jobs created in the state of Kansas, and of course a lot of that is here in Manhattan, a little over 3,000, and that goes to the direct jobs of the athletic department, but there's also ancillary jobs that are created.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, our concession stand workers, now some of those are volunteers that come in, but they, being a volunteer for our Sodexo at the concession stands, they generate money. Sometimes they're for their organization, they get money from working the concession stands. Obviously our security personnel our ushers, our ticket takers, all those are jobs that we hire and pay for at K-State. And so either some of them are retired, earning a little extra money, or younger people that are, have an opportunity to earn pretty good hourly wages. So in the course of a year, that adds up to a pretty quick, big number of 3,000 jobs.
There are also taxes involved with those jobs and with the money that's impacted by, or force and the impact of Kansas State. So we look at now the tax impact, that's $26 million for the state of Kansas, $20 million for Manhattan. Taxes obviously help everybody throughout the entire state.
Helps the community, et cetera. And again, just I think when you come to a football game or come to a basketball game, you don't, obviously you paid for your ticket and you paid for parking, and those dollars go directly to us. But what some people probably don't realize, maybe they do, is the other impact that has on the community. Hotels are filled. That's why they want us to play as many football games as we can. Restaurants are packed. If you come to Manhattan during the course of a football weekend, it's really fun. The atmosphere is fun. There's a lot of energy in the community, but just specifically dollars to those businesses in the local area are a major part of who we are as a campus, who we are as a state. And as long as athletics is having success, and we're putting 50,000 in Bill Snyder Family Stadium and 12,000 in Bramlage, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, those dollars continue to be coming into our local area.
Yeah, you're talking about visitor spending, and as we roll to the 4th slide here, that's exactly what this number is, and it's a lot, $202 million or just under for the state of Kansas with visitors, and over $161 million for Manhattan alone. It's interesting because K-State football on a football Saturday, that's the second largest event in the state as far as visitors coming into Manhattan. Outside of the races in Kansas City that are on the Kansas side, the largest sporting event that are held each year in Kansas are at K-State.
Yeah, and again, just and a lot of times I don't even think about it, right? As the athletic director, I'm more focused on the game and are we going to win and how many tickets have we sold, So I think of it more internally but there is this massive external impact that we have and we've had for a long time. And that's why, as we look at this settlement and we look at our needs to make sure we come up with the $22 million, how important it is for us to stay successful. And there's other reasons for that. I think we'll talk about that a little bit, about admissions and applications for the institution. And so if we're not successful, a lot of these things don't happen, and then it just has really a domino effect in our community that isn't positive.
And not only does K-State impact hotels, restaurants here in town, with that study that you're talking about also mentioned real estate. I mean, that was one that I never even thought about either.
Yeah.
But people buying retirement homes here and wanting to live here and be around a college town sort of feel and the vibe and the family nature of Kansas State athletics. All right, our last slide here talks about student athlete spending in the state of Kansas. Because there is money now in the pockets of student athletes, they're going to spend money here. They're going to spend it in Manhattan. This number, almost $10 million for student athletes, a little over $7 million here in Manhattan. But there's another aspect of student athlete spending, and that's spending on student athletes that also is accounted for in this economic impact, and that's K-State athletics giving back to campus.
Yeah, obviously, we pay for our scholarships, and we've talked about it before. We don't get state dollars or institutional dollars, so we send about $13 million a year in scholarship, tuition fees, room, board, and books to campus. Part of that is our full scholarship athletes, our partial scholarship athletes, and even our walk-ons that they pay for themselves. And then obviously then there's other institutional dollars that we pay for to support the support that we get. So it adds up to about $15 million a year that we are sending across campus, which is a good thing. But again, it's just another positive that we bring to our community, to our campus. I think I mentioned that I think if you're having success, it impacts enrollment potentially. And we've seen that, and there are studies across the country. I think we can talk about that a little bit. But there are a lot of positives we have to stay successful, we have to be competitive. And the way to do that is we have to find a way to meet these dollars, this new budget number.
Yeah, this new expense, and that's line item that'll be in the budget moving forward. Or you mentioned there about the success of athletics having an effect on campus. There was an FBS AD op-ed that recently ran that kind of talked about that and how there's a double benefit of K-State or athletics in general having success, and it was, as you mentioned, pride in the school and people wanting to enroll. There are specific studies done by the Harvard School of Business and others that have shown that, but also the economic impact of just having a successful team and adding more games here at home.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we've talked about that, and we talked about the reasons we took the Ireland game, right? For us, that was an economic, but it did hurt our community by one less game, and so that's why we're always, after this year, going to continue to try to have 7 home games as much as we can. The night games versus day games, all of those decisions, sometimes we don't have an opportunity to make those decisions because those are driven by television, but all that matters for us when we think about that. And so what I just hope people understand is we need to be competitive. We need to be successful. We need to be able to provide the dollars that our coaches need and our student athletes need. And this new budget line item, it's like I said, it is all of a sudden a $20 million addition to our budget, $22 million addition to our budget. We have to find a way to meet that so we can stay competitive, so we can continue to be successful, and then have the positive impact that we bring. And when I say we, athletics brings to both our community and our state.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who have jobs that depend on the success of K-State athletics, and it's not just the ones that work here at K-State. It's, as you mentioned, all the other ancillary touching points that K-State athletics has on a home game. Absolutely. I appreciate you talking about this and going through all these things. Next time that we visit, we're going to get into the how this all kind of correlates. And
we're building up. We're
We're building up. That's right.
I'm wondering if people are staying awake to make sure, kind of like Yellowstone, the next episode of Yellowstone.
I don't know. I don't think that's happening. But you never know.
Hey, you never know.
You never know. It might be. Hey, they're going to look and see what shirts we wear the next time and if it matches or not.
But today, all of them are important, Brian, and I don't mean to make light of it. This conversation is extremely important. That's why we're doing it. And we wanted to do it in pieces so we could, make it a little bit easier to understand. But the next one's going to be just as critical as the first two.
Absolutely. And you can go back on through kstatesports.com or social media channels or through the email that you may have received and watch that first one if you haven't already. Glad you tuned in for the second one. Next week, Gene and I will be back to wrap it all up and kind of put a bow on it and figure out how we all move forward into the future together. Thank you for watching. For Director of Athletics Gene Taylor, I'm Brian Smolder, and this has been a special edition of Ask the AD.